Om Shri Sairam, the speaker for the next segment. We have with us Dr. Bharti. She is a PhD in education and MSc in physics from the University of Delhi. She is an associate professor at the Central Institute of Educational Technology, CIET, NCERT, Delhi. Unlocking potential through inclusive education invokes creating a learning environment that accommodates and celebrates the diverse needs of all students, including those with disabilities and with different cultural backgrounds. And with varying abilities, innovative methods of imparting education, supportive environment, teacher training and professional development, collaborative learning, holistic policies and advocacy and etc. can play a crucial role in creating a welcoming and inclusive environment. PRASHAST, a Sanskrit term that means excellent, auspicious, or praiseworthy. It surely is an excellent project and very enriching, enlightening work from you and your team, ma'am. To shed more light on this subject, please welcome Dr. Bharti with a thunderous round of applause. Sairam.
So, Sairam to all from CIT NCERT. Though I'm coming here for the first time, but feeling like it's my home too. So thank you for making me feeling so welcomed and making me feel at home. Thank you. So we'll begin with the presentation, and I'll try to stick within the time limit that is given to me. So it's unlocking potential, inclusive education, and PRASHAST. So let's try to make it two-way communication. So if I ask you a question and you want to say yes, just show me your thumbs up. And if it's a no, you can do thumbs down. So shall we try this one time? So my question is, did you all enjoy a cup of tea? Okay, so we'll begin now. So I'll show you some statements, and we'll see whether it is inclusion in education or not, right? Making children with disabilities sit with children without disabilities. Now, where is the presentation? I was also reading from there. So can we have the presentation on screen? It's in? OK, so I'll stay here then. Making children with disabilities sit with children without disabilities in the same classroom. Is it inclusion? Are you sure it is inclusion? What are we doing? Think about it. Think about it. It's not inclusion. So the first statement is giving me mixed responses. Majority is saying yes, a few are saying it's not. So I'll say it's a different degree of inclusion. Here, children with disabilities are sitting with children without disability in the same classroom. So inclusion only at the physical level, because we are not moving ahead. So let's look at the second statement. Teaching learning strategies and TLM not modified, adapted, or accommodated in the CR. What is CR? Thank God it's not CSR. In the classroom. So now, is it inclusion? No, it's not inclusion. Now, by the second statement, almost all of us are become a little more wiser than the first statement, right? So why it's not inclusion? Because we are not addressing the needs. The third statement is treating all children equally, irrespective of disability or ability. Is it inclusion? No. Yes. Think again. Let me read the statement again. Treating all children equally, irrespective of disability or ability. What we are doing? We are treating everybody equal. Now, when we treat, I'm audible? Yeah. When we treat everyone equal, what happens? Think about this dais. We had our MC who was a little shorter in height, so we had to give her a stool. Right? So which principle we are following? Equity. It's not equality. So the third statement also requires some accommodation here and there. Fourth is lack of accessible infrastructure. Is it inclusion? No. So we have consensus on this statement. The fourth one. Children with disabilities are excluded from some of the daily school activities such as science experiments, sports, etc. The concern is their safety. Is it inclusion? Neither yes nor no. I can't see thumbs up, thumbs down. So it's a tricky question. The concern is safety. Thumbs down, okay? Up, right? You know here, the last statement, why it is tricky? On one hand, we are concerned with child safety. Taking a blind child out to the playground, we are afraid. What if there is a ball coming from any other direction and hitting the child? Similarly, we hesitate in taking a blind child to a science lab, maybe chemistry lab or something else. Why? There are glasswares everywhere, especially in chemistry lab, and there are electricity might be there, because we have to work with electricity in the physics lab. In bio lab, we have to look through microscopes. And we might be thinking what a blind child will do there. Again, the safety concerns. Again, the concern of participation based on the principles of equality. And we all are very smart. How? We have microscope. We have slides, pre-prepared slides. We have solutions in big jars in the chemistry lab. And we ask students, these are your instructions, and now you have to measure the chemicals and perform the experiment. Let's think again. If there is a blind child, can we give that blind child pre-measured chemicals? Can we have rounded corners of the tables? Can we tape the wires so that safety concern is not there? Not in that degrees. And similarly in sports or playground, can we do the peer sensitization so that everybody is taking care of everyone? And if we have some blind student with us, can we have balls with sound in it? Quite simple accommodations. And you know why these statements, they made us think, reflect on our own conceptions of inclusion. And when we start thinking and reflecting about these conceptions of inclusion, we are, in a way, reflecting on the principles given by United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And here are the principles. Respect for inherent dignity, individual autonomy, including the freedom to make one's own choices and independence of persons. Non-discrimination, full and effective participation and inclusion in society, respect for difference and acceptance of persons with disabilities as part of human diversity and humanities, equality of opportunities, accessibility, equality between men and women, respect for the evolving capacities of children with disabilities, and respect for the right of children with disabilities to preserve their identities. All these are sounding quite familiar, right? Because being in Satya Sai's Vidya Vahini and associated with other activities of the trust, all these are the values that we might be living, right? And they are now making connections at the international level. So it's basically establishing a connect between what we are practicing and what the international organizations are giving us back, our own values. So the mantra here is establish a connect between what is written in the policies and what we practice in day-to-day life. Let's see some terms which we all need to know and understand since we are working towards realizing the dream of inclusion in our education system. So the very first term is equity and equality, which we understood with the example of the stool given to our MC so that she'll be comfortable with the mic. That is principle of equity. And equality would have been, we have provided the mic, we have provided the dais, so we are treating everyone equal. Whereas equity says respect, understand, and address individual needs within the framework of equality. That is why the stool was provided, right? So equity is should be the very first principle on which we need to work on. Disability, impairment, and handicap are another three terms which many of us use quite comfortably and interchangeably, whereas there is a difference between these three terms. Impairment usually occur at the level of body. It's at the physical body level impairment occurs. Say, for example, I don't have this right hand. Then it's at the body level. So I don't have this right hand, so this is an impairment at the body level. And because I don't have this right hand, so what all abilities I'm losing, that is disability. So loss of ability due to any impairment is nothing but disability. And now it's up to me as an individual and my environment whether I make this disability a handicap or not. How is it possible? I don't have this right hand, so I'll have difficulty in performing many functions. But am I confident enough? Am I getting enough support from the family? Am I getting enough support from my environment that I do not make this my handicap? This is, I take it as a challenge and I try to overcome it, right? Handicap is a social construct. Earlier, decades back, we used to think that people with disabilities are only good for begging. That is why many places they were seen with cap in their hand for begging alms or collecting alms. That is why the term handicap originated. So the difference here is impairment is at bodily level, disability is loss of ability due to impairment, and then handicap is a social construct. It's up to me whether I make my disability a handicap or not. Next is mainstreaming, inclusion, and integration. Again, the three terms that create a lot of confusion in the field. So what is mainstreaming? Mainstreaming is when children with disabilities studying in special schools are being prepared there, getting ready there for some interaction with the mainstream school or spending some time in the mainstream school and classrooms along with children without disabilities, then it is mainstreaming. It could be for some time duration, it could be for a little longer duration, but their preparation is to be done beforehand through special schools and all, so that is mainstreaming. What is integration? Integration again has its roots in the special education, within the special schools and the special education system, where the children are special, the teachers are special, the curriculum is also special, everything is special. So what happens in integration? Children from the special education wing are within the same building's premises, but may not have much interaction with children without disabilities. So that is integration. Maybe you can say, for namesake, they are there, but this is not mainstreaming. It is different from mainstreaming. And what about inclusion? Inclusion is right from the beginning, when maybe we are preparing our children to enter the formal school system at a foundational stage or pre-primary stage or at the early childhood care and education stage or FLN or Nipun Bharat, we are accommodating, addressing, and celebrating the needs of children with special needs, which may manifest as needs for communication, needs for daily living skills. A simple example would be when we are teaching children alphabets or numeracy skills, when we are teaching children printed numbers and alphabets, can we have signs of these as well within the classroom, so that children who have special needs as well as children who do not have these kind of needs, they also learn the signs for alphabets and numbers, finger spellings and numbers and sign, and maybe in Braille also. So how many of us are familiar with Braille here? Thumbs up. I can't see many thumbs up. So the simplest experience of Braille would be when we use lifts. Just below the numbers, we have many dots there. Just touch these dots. That's a Braille script for you and me. Why are these scripts there? So that a blind person can navigate independently. So this is about mainstreaming, inclusion, integration. Adaptation, accommodation, modification also are almost similar with different degrees of work that we need to do. Adaptation requires a little higher degree of work because we are making lot of changes in the existing maybe learning, teaching material or curriculum. Accommodation is, the need might be small. We may just need to give a little stool so that the mic become comfortable. This could be an example of accommodation. And modification lies somewhere between adaptation and accommodations. Now, comfortable schooling for all, CWSN and CWD. These are the two terms which are again creating a lot of confusion maybe in the field. CWSN are children with special needs. Then who are children with disabilities? Children with disabilities no doubt has special needs, and they also come under the category of children with special needs, children with disabilities are part of CWSN, but CWSN is a little wider and broader category. It includes children with disadvantages as well. So these are few of the terms that I thought that will require some clarifications. So from all this discussion so far, what can we infer? Can a school be inclusive without the presence of children with special needs? Yes or no? Thumbs up, thumbs down. No? No. For a school to be inclusive, we need presence of children with disabilities, children with special needs. So inclusive school is not limited to only children with disabilities. The only criteria is it should have children with special needs. Okay, now, and special needs not only arising out of disabilities, but out of maybe disadvantages also. So the inference is a school can be inclusive even in the absence of children with disabilities. Inclusive school is about responding to individual needs, following the principle of equity within the framework of equality. So what does NEP 2020 has to say about inclusion? So NEP 2020 has done one thing which is remarkable, that it has brought inclusion out of the clutches of disability. NEP 2020 is focusing on SEDGs, socio-economically disadvantaged sections. And when we say socio-economically disadvantaged sections, it has 5 subcategories or identities. I'll come to them one by one. Then NEP 2020 is advocating equitable and inclusive education instead of equality and inclusive education. NEP 2020 for the first time has formally recognized that Indian Sign Language is at par with other languages. That is why it has advocated preparation of learning teaching material in ISL also, for which we all are working together. NEP has also recommended a fund for inclusive education and a fund for gender inclusion. And it has also encouraged us to make ICT accessible for all. So this is, in a nutshell, the NEP 2020 recommendations related to inclusion and equitable education. So these are the 5 identities which are recognized in NEP 2020 under SEDGs. The very first is gender identity. It has female and transgender individuals. Second is socio-cultural identities. We are all quite familiar with them. The persons and children coming from scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, OBCs, and minorities. Then we have children coming from difficult geographical terrains, students from small villages, small towns, and aspirational districts. These comes under the third category or identity under SEDGs, which is geographical identities. We all have seen reports where we have seen children traveling through rivers to reach the school. Children have to climb hills to reach the schools. And it's their daily, part of their daily routine. The fourth category is socio-economic conditions. Children from migrant communities, low-income households, children in vulnerable situations, victims of or children of victims of trafficking, orphans including child beggars in urban areas, and the urban poor. And the fifth identity under SEDGs is nothing but disabilities. Children with disabilities. And India legally recognizes 21 disability conditions. under RPWD Act 2016. So if you're thinking that now you'll have to do the modifications of learning teaching material as per the needs of all 21 disability conditions, hold your thoughts. We'll not go by the labels of disability conditions or disadvantages. We'll focus our attention on the learning needs that are arising out of these disability conditions and disadvantages. Because learning needs cut across categories of disabilities and disadvantages, right? We'll explore this thought more. So what are the present challenges that we are facing in our education system, traditional or maybe at present? Number one, addressing the diverse needs of students in inclusive education. We have just explored this, whether I need to make changes in my pedagogy practices as per the 21 disability conditions, added to 4 more, which we had seen, 4 more identities under SEDGs. Then, okay, suppose somehow I make myself ready to do that, then how to identify the diverse needs is another challenge in front of me. Third challenge is it IEP or IEP? So all my friends sitting here who have some background of special education, they might be thinking, we have heard of one IEP, Individualized Education Plan. What could be this second IEP? Anybody? No, but you are quite close. Inclusive Education Plan. So wherein first IEP focuses only on the individual needs. Inclusive Education Plan takes care of the whole class approach. And what is this whole class approach? See, we all can speak, right? But we have a friend here who is not able to speak. So, to make that friend feel welcome, accepted in the classroom, instead of answering in chorus yes and no, can I use gestures so that that child also feel a little welcome and there is hardly any feeling of alienation? These kind of small practices, based on the individual needs of the child as we spell them out in individualized education plan, converted for the whole classroom, make our plans more inclusive. So this is the second IEP. So how do I do that? That also is one of the bigger challenge in front of me as I'm working in the current education system. Then another one is defining the role and responsibilities of stakeholders. And who all are our stakeholders? The regular teachers, the special educators, the parents, the peers, and don't forget the administrative staff that we have in our education system. Usually, there is, role confusion among the regular teachers and the special educators. Regular teachers are the ones who are transacting the curriculum, who are teaching our children languages, mathematics, and other curricular areas. And special educators are the ones who are trained to address the special needs of the children in the mainstream school, inclusive school, as well as the special schools. So ideally, both the persons should work hand in hand as a team, but since it's ideal situation, so the practices on the ground is a little different from the ideal situation. So there needs to have a role clarification among the two groups. Then, of course, peer engagement. How do I make the children without disabilities sensitive and friendly to the children with disabilities? Of course, there are issues with parental support, parents of children with disabilities and children without disabilities. And lastly, but not the least, attitudinal concerns. If we'll work on our attitudes as an individual, I think we will take a huge step in making the dream of inclusion a reality. And instead of working on the attitude of others, we'll first have to work on our own attitude. And that will start with accepting ourselves as it is. Now, you all must be thinking, what's big deal in that? We are all happy and we accept ourselves as it is. Are you sure? Think about it. Are we all accepting ourselves as we are? What happens when we stand in front of mirror in the morning? Though the best part in our guest house where we are staying, no mirror. So the question doesn't arise there. But still, think about it and reflect upon it. So where to start with? Start with accepting ourselves, first thing, for ourselves. And as far as realizing the dream of inclusive education in the education system, let's start with identifying and addressing the spatial needs. And for that, we have a solution which is PRASHAST. Pre-assessment holistic screening tool at the school level. So what is PRASHAST? PRASHAST basically helps us all in screening for 21 disability conditions recognized in RPWD Act 2016. So if I'll ask you to make a list in your mind, how many disability conditions you can list? Count on your fingers. And then you can show the number with your hands and fingers. 10, maybe 15, maybe 6. So how many of us have included slow learners in our list? Thumbs up. No one? Okay. How many of us have included children with behavior problems in our list of disability conditions? Children with ADHD? Okay, why these 3 terms I picked up? Because these 3 are not recognized by RPWD Act 2016. Slow learner is not a recognized disability condition because slow learning happens due to a number of reasons. It could be due to autism, it could be due to educational backlog, it could be due to multilinguality, it could be due to a number of other reasons. And ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, though we educationists and experts count it under learning disabilities, but as such, it's not an individual category recognized in RPWD Act 2016. Don't worry, we need not know the labels of disability condition, and even if you'll ask me to list down all 21 disability condition, I'll stop at, I know, at 15 or 17 only. So, no big deal, as long as we are aware about the learning needs of children, that what are their learning needs. So, PRASHAST help us in doing that. Even if, as a regular teacher, I do not have any background or any study or any training on disability conditions, because PRASHAST is divided into 2 parts. Let's see. Let's move ahead. So, why PRASHAST? Because we need to identify the diverse learners early, and we need to engage everyone in the functioning of PRASHAST, irrespective of our training and background in disability studies. And especially after RPWD Act 2016, which recognizes 21 disability conditions, and after NEP, we have 4 more disadvantaged groups. But PRASHAST is focusing only on disability screening. And PRASHAST ensures participation of regular teachers in the screening process. Screening is only the first step towards certification process. It's the very first small step. And on the basis of screening, we do not label any child. We simply say, yes, the child is showing this behavioral symptom, or behavior is like this, but child, still, the language is the child may have this particular disability condition or at risk of this particular disability condition. So we need to go ahead for further identification and certification process. So PRASHAST just helps us in making a tentative list of children who may be at the risk of disability. Okay, this we have covered. Okay. So now, PRASHAST is having parity with UNCRPD, because UNCRPD principles are as it is adopted by RPWD Act 2016. And this is the list of disability conditions. I'm not going to leave it with you. So I'm not giving you time to click the picture of this also. So you can Google it. It's available there. And this is like the first page of RPWD Act and Samagra Shiksha and Right to Education Act 2009. So Samagra Shiksha, we all might be aware of. It's a Central Ministry of Education holistic education scheme which is applicable from foundational level till the tertiary or secondary level of education. It includes teacher training, it includes ICT in education also. It includes gender inclusion and all kind of requirements that we have for school education system, right from foundation to tertiary and secondary education. So what is the procedure that we have adopted in developing the PRASHAST? It's not that a group of people suddenly thought that we need a screening checklist, though the project was conceptualized like that only. We realized the need of having a screening checklist which can be used at the school level. So then each step evolved thereafter. So we started with the status study survey pan-India, wherein we contacted all the state coordinators and we asked them, how are you doing the screening process? So they were saying, we are asking the list from the schools. Then our next question was, on what basis the school is giving you the data? So the data that were collected at the school end were totally prepared by the regular teachers, and somewhere where we had special educators, because India is statistically huge country, the numbers are huge, so we do not have one special educator per school. So the data was not coming through a proper screening process, and many a times it was also experienced that one state was collecting data for only 4 disability conditions, whereas the others were collecting data for maybe 12 or 10 or 3 disability conditions, even after RPWD Act 2016. So we tried to understand the situation at the ground. This was our first step. Second step was, after understanding the situation, and the team was aware of all the disability conditions, their behavioral manifestations in the classroom, so we prepared an in-house draft. This in-house draft we were so proud of. We shared it with the experts in the vetting and finalization workshop. And the experts who were working in the National Institutes for Disability and Divyangjan under MSJE, we called the regular school teachers, we called the state inclusive education coordinators, and my in-house team was so proud of the first draft. But the experts, they had a look at it, and then they were looking at our faces, and then they said, we don't accept it. So we sat down we prepared, reworked on it from the scratch. And then the present form of PRASHAST emerged during that: workshops, deliberations, discussions, heated arguments. And now it has two parts. Part one is for the regular teachers, which has only 63 statements, which ask whether the child is showing this kind of symptom or that kind of a symptom, and it didn't give you any name of the disability conditions. After this, we took to the field. And where all we go, it is here. 29 schools across 3 states. 11 schools in Karnataka, 14 schools in Odisha, 4 schools in Meghalaya. So we did the intensive field testing, made some changes, minor changes here and there. And then next step was statistical standardization. So we did the statistical standardization in the UT of Chandigarh. The process is here. And then the reliability was acceptable, so we were thrilled to have that. So this is one of its kind statistical standardization screening tool available in India. Thank you. I was waiting for this appreciation. After this, we sent it to the language editing section of our publication division and language department. We didn't stop here. Next step was to call the international experts who were working in the field, and we shared the document with them, and they vetted our PRASHAST document. And finally, 6 September 2022, we launched PRASHAST as an Android app also, which is available on Google Play Store. The link, launch video, and everything is here, and they are also available on NCERT Accessibility Initiative. If you'll Google these 3 terms, NCERT Accessibility Initiative, you will be taken to a web page wherein all the accessibility initiatives taken by NCERT are listed, and there you can find all these links and much more. So the specific details, I believe I have covered them all. Okay. Before I come to thank you slide, this is the statistics. It's of the last week, maybe I think Thursday or Friday last week. And I believe the moment I'm standing here and presenting the statistics, sharing the statistics with you all, more than 20,000 users have registered. So the numbers are still growing and we are counting. But all is not this rosy with the PRASHAST team. Lot many users, when they try to register on PRASHAST at the same time, the server takes lots of load and then technical glitches arises. So we need a lot of patience while working with PRASHAST, and every day the team is learning, both the theoretical and the back-end technical team, and we are trying to manage the data. And we are trying to reach out to the individual users who are facing problems. Then the way ahead is, our dream is to build an ecosystem around PRASHAST so that right from screening to interventions to the academic progress is available to us on our dashboard. That yes, PRASHAST has suspected this particular disability in this particular child. These are the provisions. And before provisions, when after screening the child is taken to the certification and identification camp, this is how the doctors has certified the disability. Then, depending on the disability certification received, what are the interventions and provisions given to the child under Samagra Shiksha scheme? Then, how beneficial this was to the child? All this we need to build around PRASHAST. So this is our dream. Thank you so much. So any questions, queries, observations, feedback? You know, my philosophy teacher used to share with us, when after your speech there are no questions, queries, or observations. Okay. So, okay, okay. So we'll take it there. So I'll hold that anecdote till the evening session. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.
We have a Q&A session in the afternoon. Whoever has the question for Dr. Bharti and other speakers can give it in a chit to the red tag volunteers, and they will forward it, take it towards the end of the session. Thank you, ma'am, for your inspiring words. You have been a constant source of support and guidance in reviewing the assets of Inclusive Education Project. Our heartfelt gratitude to you, ma'am. I will request Dr. Srividya Sridhar to come on the stage, and Mr. Taranath Kotian and Mr. Saurabh Saxena. Big round of applause for Dr. Bharti.